What do you do with your body when you're presenting? How important is it to look right? Well, if you think of the three key elements of being able to present effectively, there's body language, there's voice, and there's words. And many people think that it's the words that are most important, but in fact that's not the case. At the University of Pennsylvania, Robert Birdwhistle has identified first that it's actually body language, the visual, what the other party, or in this case an audience, can see, that is most critical in a presentation. It's about 55% of the total presentation in terms of speaker impact. The voice is 38% and words are only 7%, so it doesn't to a certain extent, it doesn't matter what you say. It's much more about what you do. So this particular video is about body language and the 5 key things you can do with your body that will give you the biggest impact when you present. So let's start with your feet. So if I'm panning down to my feet here, you need to get your feet shoulder width apart, pointing towards the audience. If you do that, you will start to feel grounded. So it's a bit like some roots going into the rest of the earth. You will feel grounded and solid. So rather than this sort of stuff, or what I call the tethered animal look, where you're going backwards and forwards, you need to get your feet shoulder width apart. So that's your feet. Now the next question is, what do you do with your hands? So let me demonstrate various different things you could do with your hands. If you're presenting to an audience, what would happen if you presented with your hands behind your back? Most people, when we ask that question in a live presentation skills training, would say that it makes you look defensive, it makes you look like someone from the royal family or someone from the army or a teacher or something like that. You're a bit withdrawn. Hands in pockets, most people would suggest that looks perhaps a bit too casual. Maybe even you could judge someone as being arrogant if you do that. One hand is probably better, and it's okay for certain situations. If you're doing a slightly more informal presentation perhaps, or you're in a more informal setting. What about this? This is the footballer's wall position. Again, what are you protecting? Not a particularly useful place to be, probably. And most people would agree that this is a bit too defensive and it wouldn't be a particularly good thing to do in terms of your arms. So when you start a presentation, there are 2 basic resting positions that we strongly recommend. One would be down by your side here, and the other would be one hand placed gently on top of the other around about here, around about the belly area. So it's either here or here. These are called resting positions. So of course you're going to move from these resting positions, but just for the first 30 seconds to a minute of your presentation, you want to get the audience focused on what you're saying rather than what you're doing. Now, of course, you're going to be potentially animated, and that will depend partly on your personality. Some people use more gestures than others. What you want to avoid is sort of Velcro elbows gestures like this, which are not particularly supportive. You want to make sure, if you're talking about the global impact of the recession, that's pretty obvious that this is supporting what I'm talking about. If you're talking about the past, the present, and the future, again, I'm accentuating something pretty obviously. If you talk about the 3 key elements of successful presenting or influencing, again, it's pretty obvious. So you need to make sure that your gestures support what you're doing. Then if we finally move on to our face, there's a couple of really critical things. You need to make sure you have a smile playing on your face. Now, obviously, if it's a particularly serious presentation, then that would be inappropriate, but most presentations aren't that critical. So just have a smile playing on your face. If you smile, you're using around about 34 muscles in your face. You relax as the presenter, and you will put the audience into a state of relaxation or calm, which is really good. So make sure you have just a smile playing on your face, a bit like this. The other thing to do is to make sure you've got eye contact. Now, I've got eye contact with you right now. If this was an audience around me, I would make sure I was picking up eye contact with people very, very quickly. You don't want to be looking over people's eyes, which some people suggest. Even in a large conference, Tom and I will make sure we try and pick out individuals in the group. So eye contact, and it's about, you have eye contact for about the amount of time it says to say elephant, elephant. Elephant, elephant. I know it's ridiculous, but you'll probably remember. You clearly don't want to be staring into someone's eyes in some sort of ridiculous hypnotic manner, because that will put people off, especially in the UK. So make sure you pick people up with eye contact as quickly as possible. Here's the reality. When you look out to a group when you're presenting, if you start talking, there will be certain people that when you get eye contact with them, here's what they'll do. They go like this. And they'll start nodding. These are called what we call natural rapport builders. They can't stop themselves building rapport with you, the presenter. So the thing to do is to notice who those natural rapport builders are and to build even more rapport with them by getting even deeper eye contact. You do that, and then it's a bit like throwing a stone into a pond. It'll spread to the rest of the group. So there are 5 key things we focus on here. You need to get grounded, get into a strong position. You need to keep your hands by your side to begin with, or just here. You need to use supportive gestures and not Velcro elbows. You need to smile and you need to have eye contact with as many people as possible, as quickly as possible in the audience. If you do those 5 things, then the body language, the visual impact, which is 55% of the total communication, will be in place for you to be able so that the audience can focus on what you have to say.